Today is day 28. Today I'm talking about that boulder that was once a pebble. So this morning I have a stack of bills on my desk that I need to deal with, and one of them has become a big problem. Like, I'm going to have to take a couple hours out of my day to deal with this one today, and it's annoying now. But 6 months ago, it was a small thing. I could have just taken care of it really quickly, no problem. It would have taken me 5 minutes or less. All it really took is for me to put a check in the mail with a stamp on it, and I would have been done. But because it was such a small little trivial thing, I just ignored it. And now it's become a big boulder. So today's discussion has two parts. First part is, we can let small little problems become gigantic problems by ignoring them, and vice versa. We can make small incremental improvements until we have a giant strong boulder that is working for us. If we ignore this law, I would call it the law of accumulation. If we ignore this law, it works against us. But if we use it to our benefit, it can really help us. Now, I wrote a blog about this morning. I dove into the reasons why this law works. I welcome you to read the blog if you want to. But let me just briefly discuss why this happens. When we ignore small things and we let them gain momentum without dealing with them, there are several reasons why this happens. The biggest one is accumulation. Problems tend to worsen over time. What seems like a minor thing initially can grow in scope and complexity, and other factors can compound until it becomes a real big issue. That problem tends to dwell with us, creating this constant loop in our heads, in our minds, in our lives that can end up feeding it and making it even worse. You're actually feeding the problem. It's kind of like that. Remember that old play? I think they made a movie on it about this giant man-eating plant where Seymour would slowly feed the plant until it eventually devoured everybody, including him. That's kind of the same concept. That play was alluding to this very idea. What starts as a small thing, we actually end up feeding it until it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and then starts to have a real psychological impact on us. And it then begins to spread into other areas. So don't ignore small problems. Figure out a way to deal with them when they're small, because they're really easily handled. I think probably the worst effect on this is that we tend to normalize this over time. So when we have a problem that grows and festers, we begin just to accept that this is the way life is. And so we just live our lives this way, bouncing from one big boulder of a problem to the next. And there's a better way, and that better way is just to deal with them very quickly. However, the real point is, and this is the point around self-improvement, instead of letting this principle of accumulation work against us, we can have it work for us. We all have weaknesses. I know I have several. But those weaknesses can become strengths if we use the law of accumulation in our favor. That little pebble at the top of the hill, if you push it off the edge of the cliff, can start to roll until it becomes a larger boulder. There's reasons why this happens. The big one is what I would call sustainable progress. As you continue to accumulate and add a little bit every day, that progress becomes sustainable, and small changes end up adding up to very significant progress. We also learn to be consistent. By doing small little things, we learn consistency. These things then become habits. And with that, we gain power. I don't know about you, but I oftentimes feel overwhelmed about trying to accomplish something big. But the best way to avoid that is just to do a little bit every day, so you don't have those feelings of being overwhelmed, and you can overcome them easily. There's many other things that small accumulation helps with. You're more adaptable. You learn as you go. You have a longer term perspective. And more importantly, you build lifelong habits along the way. So small accumulation is really the source of strength for the disciplined person. So just in concluding this thought, don't ignore small problems and don't sit idly by and let yourself not be making progress because you're too overwhelmed. Rather, start small and grow as you can. Grow and add a little bit at a time. Either way, this law of accumulation will work in your life. I think it's probably better to let it become a boulder of success rather than a big giant boulder of trouble. Thank you.